The Sylvers, 9 talented brothers and stunning sisters, were one of the brightest family music groups of the 1970s. Some even said they were better than the Jackson 5. But behind the glittering stage lights and chart-topping songs, the Sylvers' story was anything but glamorous. Illness, addiction, incarceration, financial struggles, and heartbreaking family conflicts loomed over them, shadowing their fame with tragedy. In this video, we'll explore the lives of each member, where they started, how they conquered the 1970s music scene, and where they are today in 2025. You'll discover the untold truths behind the family's dazzling success and hear the heartbreaking stories that the world rarely saw. Are you ready to uncover the triumphs and tragedies of the Sylvers? Let's delve into it. How it all started. The Sylvers' early days. The story of the Sylvers begins in the late 1940s with a young woman named Shirley Mae Bull. She was studying music and training to be a teacher when she met Leon Sylvers, a musician from Memphis, Tennessee, who dreamed of making it big in the music world. By 1951, Shirley and Leon were married, and it didn't take long for their house to fill with children. Every time Leon looked at Shirley, she seemed to be expecting again, and soon their home was bustling with little ones. Raising such a large family was no small task. Shirley and Leon loved their children dearly, but they faced the constant challenges of providing food, clothing, and a stable home. Leon's own dreams of musical stardom had to be put on hold, at least for a while. Then an idea struck him. Perhaps his children could carry on his dream. After all, they were a part of him. Surely some of his talent had rubbed off. He lined up his oldest children and asked them to sing. The moment they opened their mouths, Leon was stunned. Their voices blended perfectly, harmonizing naturally as if it had been meant to be. From that moment, Leon knew what he had to do. If he couldn't become a star himself, his children would. He began training them in harmonies, teaching them to perfect their sound and introducing them to complex arrangements like the Four Freshmen's 4-part harmonies. Each child instinctively found their place, and together they began to form a group. Leon named them the Little Angels, and the family's musical journey had officially begun. The group started performing at local events, gradually gaining fans and attention. Their big break came when they landed a spot on You Bet Your Life with Groucho Marx, a major opportunity at the time that put the young family in the national spotlight and set the stage for the legendary Sylvers who would dominate the music scene in the 1970s. Internal conflicts and disagreements among the Sylvers. In the early days, only the 3 oldest children were part of the family's musical group, but over time, more siblings joined in, and by the 1960s, the little group had grown into something serious. Their talent and dedication even earned them a recording contract with Capitol Records. At first, everything seemed to be going well, yet there was a challenge they hadn't anticipated. Despite their popularity, people often saw the Little Angels as a novelty act, adorable kids with beautiful voices, but not serious artists. Slowly, the excitement around them began to fade. Determined to be taken seriously, the family eventually dropped the Little Angels name and rebranded themselves as the Sylvers. They were no longer just a cute family band. They were young artists with a fresh, dynamic sound, ready to make their mark. Their hard work paid off. With a new style and renewed focus, they caught the attention of the music industry and soon landed a major record deal. Success followed quickly. Hits like Boogie Fever and Hotline topped the charts, bringing fame, recognition, and money. For a while, it seemed like their dreams were finally coming true. But behind the glitz and glamour, tensions were building. Money problems, personal struggles, and the pressures of fame began to weigh heavily on the family. Leon, the oldest sibling, naturally took charge. He wrote songs, directed rehearsals, and guided his siblings through the challenges of the music industry. By 1971 to 1972, the Sylvers had a recording contract with MGM, who put them in the studio and helped them refine their music. Songs like Fool's Paradise and Wish That I Could Talk to You showcased their growing talent, but the group was still searching for the breakthrough hit that would define them. At this time, Edmund Sylvers, the youngest member then, was chosen to lead the next single, Misdemeanor. Leon had written the song with Edmund's voice in mind, confident it would be a perfect match. But when Edmund stepped into the recording booth, something unexpected happened. His voice had changed. It had deepened as he grew older, and the tone was no longer what Leon had imagined for the song. This posed a serious problem. They needed the right voice to make Misdemeanor work. That's when Leon turned to his younger brother, Foster Sylvers. "I need you to sing this song," Leon said. "You've got the right voice for it." Foster stepped in, ready to take on the challenge, and the recording moved forward. Decline in popularity, early 1980s. The decision to have Foster Sylvers sing Misdemeanor proved to be perfect. The song became an instant hit. Foster, young and incredibly talented, captured the public's attention not only with his remarkable voice, but also with his charm and stage presence. His performance was so strong that listeners often mistook him for a young Michael Jackson. As the song climbed the charts, Foster received the recognition he deserved, and Misdemeanor was soon everywhere, on the radio, on television, and in the hearts of fans. With this success, Foster became a permanent member of the Sylvers, bringing a fresh energy and a distinctive sound that elevated the group. Despite the triumph of Misdemeanor, MGM Records fell short in pushing the Sylvers to the next level. They weren't giving the group the promotional support they needed. Enter Capitol Records. The label had been watching the Sylvers carefully, impressed by their talent and potential. Ready to invest, Capitol signed the group, creating Pride Records specifically to support them. At the time, no one could have predicted how transformative this would be for their careers. With Capitol behind them, the Sylvers hit their stride. Boogie Fever became a massive success, followed by other hits like Hotline. The group seemed unstoppable, young, famous, and creating music that fans adored. But with fame came its own challenges. Some members began to develop bigger egos, and the pressures of success started to strain the family dynamic. As they matured, the group realized they wanted more than songs about high school dances. They aimed to create music that appealed to a grown-up audience, reflecting their personal growth and musical ambitions. To achieve this, they made a significant decision. They parted ways with Freddie Perrin and entrusted their older brother Leon with full creative control. Leon had led them before, and now he would guide the Sylvers once again, writing, producing, and shaping the sound that had made them stars. The family experienced financial difficulties. For a while, things had been moving quickly for the Sylvers. They were working with new choreographers, revamping their performances, and trying to polish their image. But despite all the effort, success didn't come as easily as it had before. Even with Leon's talent and leadership, the music wasn't connecting the way it used to. The hits weren't coming, and the group began to struggle. Tension started to creep in. Some members grew nervous and uncertain, wondering if they were heading in the right direction. They wanted to reclaim their spot at the top, but doubts about Leon's leadership began to surface. That's when a new figure appeared, Al Ross, a manager who promised he could take them back to the top. Ross had a clear vision, but it didn't include Leon in charge. When Leon heard this, he was furious. As the eldest, he had led the group for years and wasn't about to let someone else take the reins. He confronted Ross, insisting that he was the one in charge. But not all the siblings felt the same way. Eventually, the group faced an ultimatum. They had to choose between Leon and Ross. In the end, they sided with Ross, but the decision went beyond music. Some members felt Leon had become too controlling, unwilling to listen to their ideas. He had acted as though the group belonged to him alone. Unfortunately, Ross couldn't deliver on his promises. The public had moved on. Songs meant for younger audiences no longer resonated, and even loyal fans began to tune out. Leon had tried to prevent this decline, but with Ross at the helm, things only worsened. To make matters worse, the contract they signed gave Ross 50% of their earnings, a deal many later realized was unfair. Looking back, the Sylvers regretted the decision. They understood that turning away from Leon had been a mistake, one that cost them both financially and creatively. Olympia Sylvers. Another chapter in the Sylvers story revolves around Olympia Sylvers, a member whose life was marked by tragedy and struggle. Known to family and friends as usually calm and reserved, Olympia sometimes claimed she had a kind of psychic intuition, though she never elaborated on it. Back in the 1970s, just as the Sylvers were rising to fame, a shocking story about Olympia made the rounds. According to reports, she was kidnapped while walking down the street. 3 men allegedly grabbed her, threw her into a car, and subjected her to horrific violence. They stabbed her, assaulted her, and even injected her with heroin. It was a brutal and terrifying ordeal. But rumors added a darker layer. Some said Olympia hadn't been a random target. She had been spending time with people who were a bad influence. Those who hurt her might have been people she knew and trusted, and their intentions were clearly malicious. During the attack, as she lay in the back seat, drugged and stabbed, her captors reportedly discussed what they would do next, showing a chilling disregard for her life. Yet Olympia survived. Despite the physical injuries and the drugs in her system, she summoned the strength to act. At the first opportunity, she jumped out of the car and ran for her life. By the time her attackers realized she had escaped, she was already far away, refusing to let them finish what they had started. The aftermath. The incident left deep scars. Olympia became nervous, hypervigilant, and haunted by constant fear. Her mental health deteriorated, and she began struggling with the trauma in ways that made daily life difficult. Seeking relief, she turned to drugs, hoping they would help her cope, but they only compounded her suffering. Over time, Olympia's life spiraled downward. She battled addiction, experienced periods of homelessness, and endured additional attacks. Her family reached out repeatedly, but Olympia often refused their help, believing she had to manage on her own. Her journey became one of isolation, pain, and survival, an ongoing struggle that shaped the rest of her life. Foster and Ricky Sylvers' incarceration. The rise of the Sylvers had brought fame and fortune, but for some of the siblings, it also brought troubles that would leave lasting scars. Foster and Ricky Sylvers, in particular, faced moments of personal crisis that would take them far from the stage. Their lives, once filled with music and limelight, took a dark turn that led them both behind bars, marking one of the most painful chapters in the family's history. Even within the group, tensions were always simmering. Foster, often described as quiet and hard-working, had been carrying a heavy load alongside Leon. "Okay, this is Eden. He's the dancer of the group, the dancer. Are you responsible for all of this? Do you have help?" someone asked. Foster's answer reflected the truth of their family dynamic. "Well, we all get together in it, but some of them, me and Leon mostly, do most of them." The weight of responsibility was immense, and for some, the pressure proved too much. Meanwhile, Leon Sylvers was carving out his own path. Known for his strong personality and leadership within the group, Leon also had a reputation as a ladies' man. Though not as wild as his younger brother Edmund, Leon's personal life was colorful, with many romantic entanglements making their way into the whispers of fans and insiders alike. After leaving the Sylvers, Leon's talent found a new outlet. He began working with Don Cornelius and music executive Dick Griffey, eventually taking on a key role in developing the R&B group Shalimar. Leon's work as a producer flourished. Some even argue he surpassed all of his siblings in professional success. He built a name for himself in the industry, collaborating with numerous artists and solidifying a career that would outlast the family's fleeting spotlight. In contrast, Charmaine Silvers opted for a quieter path. Focused on her career and family, she steered clear of scandal and public drama. Charmaine's life was private, deliberate, and peaceful, a stark contrast to the turbulence that often surrounded her siblings. Similarly, James Silvers lived a life of stability and discretion. He avoided the spotlight, maintained steady work, and prioritized his family. If there were missteps, they never made headlines. For both Charmaine and James, staying out of the limelight was a conscious choice, living life on their own terms, far from the chaos that fame had brought to others in the family. Then there was Edmund Silvers, whose life became a series of highs and devastating lows. Once the lead voice behind many of the Silvers' hits, Edmund believed he could launch a solo career as dazzling as Michael Jackson's. He followed the formula he thought would guarantee success, but the industry didn't respond the way he had hoped. Frustration began to mount. Stories circulated that Edmund's personal life suffered as a result. He reportedly treated women poorly and fathered between 11 to 15 children with different women. At some point, his relationship with the family soured, whether due to disputes over money, clashes of ego, or a belief that he was better than his siblings. Edmund severed ties with his family and moved to Virginia. From 1989 to 2004, Edmund's life was nomadic. He moved frequently, often struggling financially. He lived in low-income housing, relied on government assistance, and faced the harsh reality that his dreams of superstardom were gone. Once a young man whose voice had captivated audiences, he now faced the quiet desperation of unmet expectations, far from the stages and studios that had once defined his life. By 2004, Edmund Silvers' life had taken a stark turn. Once the lead voice behind the hits that had made the Silvers a household name, he now worked a regular factory job. Music, which had once been his lifeblood, was no longer part of his life. He was simply trying to survive. That same year, tragedy struck again. Edmund was diagnosed with lung cancer. At just 47 years old, he passed away, leaving behind little for his family. Reports suggest that he either had no money at the time of his death or had completely cut ties with everyone. To this day, there is no headstone marking his grave, a sobering reflection of a life that had once been filled with promise. Ricky Christopher Silvers, often known as the family's health nut, faced his own battles. From a young age, Ricky had been dedicated to exercise and careful about what he ate, earning him that nickname. But the end of the Silvers' fame hit him hard. Performing had been his world since childhood, and when the spotlight disappeared, he struggled to find purpose. Desperation led him down a dark path, and like so many others in similar situations, drugs became an escape. This spiral ultimately landed him in jail. Fortunately, Ricky seems to have turned his life around since then and is reportedly in a much better place today. Angie Silvers also faced serious personal challenges. She struggled with alcohol addiction for many years, beginning in her teenage years and continuing into adulthood. But unlike some of her siblings, Angie sought help and managed to turn her life around. Today, she is said to be sober, a testament to resilience in the face of long-standing hardship. Pat Silvers, by contrast, largely stayed out of trouble. While the Silvers sisters were all known for their beauty, Pat stood out. Stunning and elegant, she made an impression wherever she went. Beyond her looks, however, she maintained a private life and avoided the drama that often plagued her siblings. Foster Silvers' story, however, was far darker. Like Edmund, he hoped to launch a solo career after the group's decline. But those dreams never materialized. Instead, he fell into substance abuse, which eventually destroyed his career and left him struggling to survive. Reports suggest that at one point, Foster was homeless and had nothing to eat, a stark contrast to the fame and fortune he had once known. Then came an even more shocking chapter in Foster's life. In 2007, he was charged with the sexual assault of a minor. According to reports, Foster entered a room where a child was sleeping, and the allegations were horrific, and he eventually served time in prison. Some rumors even suggested that the victim was related to Foster, though this was never confirmed. Prison, however, brought no relief. Once other inmates discovered the nature of his crime, he became a target. Rumors circulated that he was repeatedly assaulted and eventually had to be taken to the prison infirmary. After serving his sentence, Foster was released, but his reputation and life were irreparably damaged. The young boy who had once captivated fans with his voice and charm was now a figure defined by scandal, tragedy, and loss. The stories of Edmund, Ricky, Angie, Pat, and Foster illustrate the stark contrasts within the Sylvers family. Some managed to reclaim their lives, some remained quiet and unscathed, and others spiraled into public disgrace and personal tragedy. What had once been a shining musical family was now a portrait of resilience, struggle, and heartbreak. Proof of how fame, fortune, and family can intertwine in both dazzling and devastating ways. A timeless legacy in music. Among the Sylvers family, there was one more sibling often left in the shadows: Christopher Sylvers. Unlike his older brothers and sisters, Christopher never performed with the group. Details about his life are scarce, but whispers about his tragic death have persisted for decades. Officially, he passed away in 1985 at just 18 years old. Some sources claim it was from hepatitis, while others suggest the cause was AIDS. There are even unverified rumors that he was found dead in a phone booth. None of these stories have been confirmed, yet the young Sylvers' death remains a haunting footnote in the family's history. Christopher's origins also sparked speculation. Some people believed that Shirley Sylvers, the family matriarch, had an affair with music producer Dick Griffey around the time of Christopher's birth. Because the timeline of his birth didn't align with when Leon Sylvers Sr. was present, questions lingered about whether he was truly Leon's son. What is known is that Leon Sylvers Sr. was largely absent from his children's lives, leaving Shirley to raise them while navigating the pressures of a family destined for fame. Leon Sr. eventually passed away in 2005, at the age of 73 after a long battle with cancer, leaving behind a complicated legacy. Yet, despite these personal hardships, the Sylvers carved a permanent mark in the world of music. Rising to prominence in the 1970s, the family's group brought together R&B, soul, and disco in a sound that was uniquely theirs. Their voices, smooth and vibrant, blended effortlessly, creating songs full of energy and joy. Fans loved their music, not just for its sound, but for the way it made them feel alive, dancing, singing along, and smiling at every performance. The Sylvers weren't just singers, they were consummate performers. Their stage presence, polished choreography, and magnetic energy set them apart from other groups of their era. Each concert was more than a show, it was an experience. Their catchy tunes and electrifying moves influenced countless artists who followed, cementing the family's place in music history. Like many artists, the Sylvers faced struggles behind the scenes. Fame brought pressure, internal conflicts, and personal challenges. Yet through every setback, their dedication to music never wavered. Their passion carried them through highs and lows, ensuring that their artistry endured long after the final notes of their hits faded from the radio. Today, the Sylvers' music continues to resonate. Their songs are played around the world, celebrated by longtime fans and discovered by new generations. Their story reminds us that music has the power to connect people, lift spirits, and leave a lasting imprint on culture. In the annals of R&B, soul, and disco, the Sylvers' legacy remains timeless, a testament to talent, resilience, and the joy of performance. The story of the Sylvers is one of triumph, struggle, and enduring talent. From their unforgettable hits in the 1970s to the personal challenges and tragedies each sibling faced, their journey reminds us that fame often comes with a price, but also with a legacy that lasts forever. Which Sylvers sibling story surprised you the most or touched you deeply? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more in-depth stories like this, where we continue to explore the lives, music, and legacy of this iconic family.